Hello everybody, SlimKirby here, and welcome back to another Mario Party minigame ranking video. And this time we have Mario Party the Top 100. Now, this game has been seen as a topic of confusion for fans of the series, mainly in the sense of how this Top 100 was decided. Well, here's the thing about that. This game was actually called Minigame Collection, or something incredibly generic like that in Japan, so this wasn't actually a list of the 100 greatest minigames, rather just 100 minigames from the past that were just selected to be featured in this game. The North American side of Nintendo just decided to name this game Top 100 because I guess people over here tend to gravitate more towards things that are associated with some kind of accolade or honor or something, which I guess makes sense considering how much better these list videos do over my Let's Play content these days. This little factoid definitely explains a lot though, because let's just say there are plenty of minigames featured in this title that I would not consider top 100 material, and plenty of high-tier minigames that I would have included that just did not make the cut here for some reason. Some would get their chance to shine in Mario Party Superstars though, so that's something, but let's focus more on this title today. I'm not going to make too many distinctions here on what types of minigames are included and how many are in each category, just because all 100 minigames will be accounted for and will have various inclusions from throughout the series. 4-player, 1 vs 3, 2 vs 2, dual minigames, and even special case minigames from the puzzle, sports, and boss battle categories. Now, this is going to be a long ranking. 100 is definitely the largest number we've done so far. But since we have talked about all these minigames before, I won't have much to say about a large number of these, so we should be moving through the ranks, in theory, pretty quickly. I may stop to talk a little bit about how some games feel compared to their previous iterations, but only if that really changes how I feel about the game, or how this version's impacts that particular ranking. So it'll be a case-by-case basis that I'll let you know if relevant. But yeah, I think that's all I gotta say here, so let's get this list started. If you have your own thoughts on this list, feel free to leave a comment as usual. Just remember to do so in a kind and constructive manner, and not a harsh and forceful one. We all have our own thoughts and opinions, okay? Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy the minigame ranking for Mario Party the Top 100. Let's get going. Number 100. People are gonna hate me for this, but I don't care. It's Bowser's Big Blast. This game was almost at the bottom of my Mario Party 2 list, and the bigger blast of Mario Party 4 was literally my last place of that game. So redoing the same exact idea, again, is not gonna make me like it more. That's just me being brutally honest here. Number 99, Peer Pressure. Number 98, Deckhands. Two more luck-based minigames for the bunch. Deckhands has a little more intrigue as you have more chances to pull ahead, even with an unlucky start, but they're still both luck-based, so ew. Number 97, Button Mashers. I feel like this game could somehow be even worse than the original, as the 3DS button layout could make mashing multiple buttons more difficult than the GameCube controller. Plus, this was already a really bad minigame. Number 96, Snow World. Number 95, Trapeze Artist. I had these two very low on the Mario Party 6 list as it is. The former is just really hard for me to optimize properly, although the 3DS button layout might make it a little easier, maybe? It's still not that great. The latter is just a one-shot chance that you have no control over due to Goomba RNG. No real change here between versions, and there's still two very lackluster Mario Party 6 minigames to bring back. Number 94, Hide and Go Boom. Yeah, was never really a fan of this one to begin with. I will say for the record though, bringing back luck minigames and featuring them as levels in the single-player minigame island mode was a really dumb idea. Seriously, luck should never be a factor of completing a level in any kind of adventure game with a life system. Number 93, Heatstroke. Don't know what they were thinking with this one. So many better 1 vs 3s they could have brought back, even from Mario Party 5. Number 92, Strawberry Short Fuse. Number 91, Balloon Busters. Luckish games, but better than the lowest rankings for one reason or another. The former has at least some aspects of memory and paying attention. The latter, despite being literally the worst of the Mario Party 7 list, I at least like how they fixed it a little, making it 3 rounds and eliminating a player each round. Gives you a little more control and wiggle room. But still, not that great. Number 90, Pokey Pummel. Number 89, Piranha's Pursuit. Number 88, Manic Mallets. Number 87, Mecha Marathon. Say it with me, folks. They're all button mashers. Number 86, Mario Speedwagons. Could have brought back many other racing games, and they chose the drag racing one, the one more dependent on gear shifting timing than actual racing skill. For shame. Number 85, Goomba Bowling. Never really been a fan of this one to begin with, and it doesn't do much for me in this game either. Number 84, Speeding Bullets. To be honest, I feel like using the gyro controls for this makes the game pretty rough. Probably even harder than its original version. Not a fan. Number 83, Title Toss. This game is not great. Both sides feel weird to play as, but in a strange way, I do think this is the best version of this minigame. Not by much though, not by much. Number 82, Tug of War. Nintendo, I have one question for you. Why? You got freaking sued for this minigame almost 2 decades prior, and you bring it back? Given, even the 3DS thumbstick is of way better quality and is more smooth than the N64 control stick, but still, just a bad control gimmick in the first place. At least it's pretty short. Number 81, Dart Attack. I know this used to be a mic minigame, but I don't see why this couldn't be controlled with button controls as an alternative. Either way, not a fan of the delay you have when you make your shot. Makes aiming feel really difficult. Number 80, At the Chomp Wash. Makes sense to turn this into a stylish scrubber from its Wiimote shaking roots. Still a pretty short minigame though, and not too exciting. Number 79, Flash Forward. Nintendo must have really liked this game to bring it back not only here, but also in Mario Party Superstars, and then to make a much better version in Super Mario Party. More on that next video. Anyway, not a fan that it's only 1 round, and pretty much an all-or-nothing type of scenario too. Number 78, Nightlife Fright. Nintendo, why must you trigger my anxiety by bringing back this minigame? I thought we were friends. Number 77, Crank to Rank. Great utilization of stylus rotation for this one, but it's still way too short. Number 76, Bumper Bubbles. They really could have made the punishment so much less severe for getting your bubble popped. That's honestly what's keeping this closer to the bottom than higher on this list, because losing everything really, really sucks in this minigame. Number 75, Goal! Number 74, Tackle Takedown. Number 73, Crate in Peril. A nice little trio of 1 versus 3 minigames, and although these games aren't the worst, they still got problems. From aiming controls for the team of 3, to the game only having 1 round, to the game just being super quick and unbalanced for one side. I will say though, switching to gyro controls for the last one was actually a nice way to make it feel a little more balanced. Only a little though. Number 72, Defuse or Lose. Over time, I have learned to appreciate this game more, but it still can be very stressful, especially after botched and/or mistimed inputs. Number 71, Badminton Bash. I was incredibly underwhelmed by this sports game in Mario Party 10 as it was, and as you can see from this ranking, the 3DS didn't do much to better my opinion either. Number 70, Jewel Drop. Probably would have had this a bit higher, but I admittedly get scared playing this due to the fact that you have to physically shake your 3DS for the shaking mechanic, and the system is definitely not as sturdy as the Wii U gamepad. Plus, it doesn't help that my 3DS is also my recording 3DS, so I already have to be more careful with it in general. Number 69, Handcar Havoc. A bit higher than some of the other button mashers, but I feel like there's more to focus on. Plus your teammate takes a bit of the load too, which is kind of a nice feature. Number 68, Pogo A Go-Go. Never really minded this game, although admittedly controlling the Pogo team can be a bit harder in this version, so be careful with that. Number 67, Three Door Monty. Number 66, Shy Guy Showdown. Both of these games come down to just 1 input to win. I'm giving the edge to Shy Guy here though, because I do kind of appreciate the mind game of him throwing out buttons that aren't actually on the system to throw you off. Number 65, Soar to Score. Having 2 rounds to test your timing skill definitely saves this game from being lower, but it's still far from my favorite timing exercise, especially since a bad first round could essentially take you out of the running. Also, that's it for the Mario Party 10 minigames. Dang, those games went fast. Number 64, Order Up. Number 63, Speed Hockey. 2 2 vs 2 team-based challenges. The former isn't too bad, but I feel it comes down to spamming more often than not. And although Speed Hockey can be kinda chaotic to control, at least there's some skill involved. Number 62, Desert Dash. Number 61, Looney Lumberjacks. These 2 games are very similar, practically twins when you think about it. Heck, I think I even compared them on equal grounds in their initial list videos as it is. I do think the button alteration is just slightly more manageable than the stick movements though, so the Mario Party 2 game gets my vote over 1 here. Number 60, Leaf Leap. I would have definitely preferred other platforming challenges over this one, stuff like What Goes Up or even Upward Mobility. This one isn't too bad though, as it's a pretty fair reaction-based optimization challenge. That's all I gotta say about it though. Number 59, Loggerheads. Given they are slightly different games, but did we really need 2 minigames about chopping wood? This one is alright, another reaction-based challenge basically. Number 58, Ice Hockey. Not surprised to see this one here. Not really a game I'm super crazy about, as I'd much rather play the Mario Sports Mix version of hockey, but I can understand this game's inclusion in this package. Number 57, The Beat Goes On. We're still not in the upper half of this list yet, but I honestly do feel like this game is actually an improvement over its original rendition. Let's just say the beat doesn't drag anymore, thank God. I do wish they would have kept the music and fun jingles of the original though, as those were always my favorite part of that game. Number 56, Honeycomb Havoc. Yeah, I know, this game can feel out of your hands at times, but the fact that it's not technically luck-based is why I like it so much more than the luck-based minigames. Getting to the final round is always fun for me because I like figuring out what I need to do to get my final opponent out of the game. And if I don't, well, hey, at least I had a cool mental duel with someone to get there. Number 55, Bumper Bowls. Like for The Beat Goes On, I wouldn't call this a very high position by any means, but I do consider this a much better improvement for this minigame. I ultimately think the Superstars version is king, but I think the developers had the right idea when it came to their approach here. Stalemates feel much less common, and they even made it so if you catch your opponent on the side, you actually put a little more push against them, which makes sense. Really, they fixed the one major issue I had with this one, and that's good in my book. Number 54, Bounce and Trounce. While Bumper Balls improved, it didn't quite improve enough over its Mario Party 3 variant, as I still like this one more, but only by a little. I do think this one does feel a bit better than its original rendition too, honestly, probably because of a more consistent control stick. Number 53, Stick and Spin. Yep, they brought back this puzzle game again. Hey, I'm not complaining, I actually like this one. Although, it's still pretty middle of the road in terms of list placement. Number 52, Monty's Revenge. I feel like they could have done so much better with Mario Party 7 representation in this game. Some of its biggest hitters are notably absent. This game is fine, I guess, but that's really all I got for it. Fine. Number 51, 2-Bit or Lose It. Number 50, Squared Away. 2 1 vs 3 Mario Party 5 minigames, and I feel like I had them this close together in my original list too, much like the Mario Party 6 4-player games from earlier. These are alright. I feel like Squared Away is a slightly more balanced challenge over 2-Bit though, therefore I like it a little bit better. Number 49, Cajun Cookin'. Interesting choice of a Bowser minigame to bring back. Anyway, it's fairly easy to manage this one, unless you're just naturally slow with 3DS button inputs. Feels like a freebie for me though. Number 48, Magma Mayhem. I suppose this was a decent survival knockout game to bring back. The physics do feel a little more awkward though, which is strange considering you used a D-pad in Mario Party 9 versus a circle pad here, so you should have more consistent movement in theory. I don't know though, something just felt a little off comparatively. Number 47, Blame It on the Crane. Before we go insane, and before I erroneously refer to Daisy as Jane and incorrectly identify Mario as a fan of David Blaine, we have Blame It on the Crane. I've always been kind of softer on this game than others, mainly because I appreciate that it's a much better use of a claw machine than the very bad crane games of Mario Party 1 and 2. In reality, it's fine. I can see the one player having a more comfortable advantage of time, but I don't think it's entirely hopeless for the team of 3 either. Just gotta know the right time to switch momentums. Number 46, Dinger Derby. Number 45, Rockin' Raceway. Number 44, Ice Rink Risk. These games are about the same as their predecessors, and they feel pretty faithful to the originals, with maybe some slight button alterations, namely with Rockin' Raceway, to complement the different button layout. Really just ordered in terms of my general preference, and that's really about it. Number 43, Careening Koopas. I actually like that they brought this game back and repurposed it as a dual minigame, when it used to be a story mode minigame in Mario Party 4. I do feel like the gyro controls kind of made it a little more awkward to play though, and probably would have preferred stick controls like the original, or at least the option to use stick controls. Number 42, Blockstar. Best puzzle game in top 100. That's really all I gotta say about it. Shame that Bob-omb Breakers, Castle Clearout, or even Puzzle Party didn't get a chance to come back though. Number 41, The Great Deflate. Solid 2 vs 2 minigame, really only hampered by the fact that it takes only a few seconds to complete before it's done and over with. Number 40, Catch You Later. I'm always very back and forth with this one. It really depends on how the Shy Guy cooperates. I do feel like this one controls pretty well though in this environment. Maybe even better than its original rendition. Number 39, Aim of the Game. Would have this a bit higher, but the reality is 50, 50 times 2 times 2 times 2, or 50 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is really all you need to win here, so it's pretty free. Also kind of glad they use control stick movement as opposed to stylus or gyro. I think it just puts everyone on a more even playing field. Also, Mario Party 8 is finished for this title. 8 games we're still pulling minigames from. Number 38, Jigsaw Jumble. They changed the perspective a little in this one, and I think that actually helps in making it a bit easier to see the puzzle pieces, making this a more fun exercise. And that's pretty much all I have to say about this one. Okay, that's not true. Pieces Game of the Year! Number 37, Triple Jump. The one type of button masher I'll always defend, because you only mash for so long, and you'd be surprised how much switching inputs can take the edge off, at least in terms of general tiredness. Number 36, Roll Call. I know I had this pretty high in Mario Party 2's list, but I'll be honest, I think if they were going to bring back a counting game, I think I would have preferred Goomba spotting over this one, just to remove the copy answers aspect of this game. Plus, there is only one variation this time instead of the 3, which is kind of lame. Still a fine game overall, though. Number 35, Reverse-A-Bomb. Wow, they actually included both minigames where I had songs made during the Mario Party 4 Let's Play. Let's go! Anyway, another solid 2 vs 2 team exercise. Can be a bit intimidating if you get behind though, but otherwise, it's pretty good. Number 34, Vine Country. Number 33, Jumpman. Well, at least they included the 2 good single-player DK minigames from Mario Party 7, and not the third one. They work pretty well as dual minigames too, so nice selections, honestly. Number 32, Dizzy Rotisserie. Probably one of my more favorite Bowser minigames from the GameCube era, even though it's admittedly very easy to win. I think it also helps that it's the only game that has a gimmick like this. Well, okay, that's actually not true, but we'll get to that one much later. Number 31, Vine With Me. One of the best dual minigames in Mario Party 3, and I think it has a relatively good showing here. I do feel like the physics are a little more awkward in this version though, but I think that's more of just something you have to get used to as opposed to an actual problem. I think another Mario Party 3 game also has that quirk, but again, we'll talk about that when we get to it. Number 30, Track and Yield. I always forget that this game is here, yet I always think that it's in Mario Party Superstars when it's not. That's not really relevant to this ranking though, so sorry for boring you with the blabbering. Overall, it's a pretty good survival game, and that's really all I have to say about it. Number 29, Bombs Away. Number 28, The Final Countdown. I think what's kind of cool about these 2 games being together is that it's kind of a time capsule of how these games have evolved over time from 1999 to 2005. You got Bombs Away, which is pretty simple and self-explanatory, but feels and controls pretty well as an original concept, while Final Countdown is a much more complex idea with the numbered floor tiles counting down and disappearing after they reach 0. Ultimately though, the goals for both are still the same: stay on the freaking platform. Final Countdown can be a little more chaotic, obviously, plus you can also attack in that version, but I'd say its added creativity is what barely pushes it over its predecessor. Number 27, 3-Throw. Number 26, Trace Race. Once again, I think I have these two games pretty close together in the original Mario Party 4 list too, and they're still pretty solid here. Maybe slightly less enjoyable due to minor control differences, but when I say minor, I mean minor. 3-Throw only uses one button for jumping and shooting now, which can be a little off-putting for those who play a lot of Mario Party 4. And I will say the GameCube control stick does feel better and more accurate for Trace Race compared to the thumbstick. Neither of these differences really ruin the games though, just something I noticed. Number 25, Storm Chasers. Nice game to bring back for Mario Party 3, and if anything, I think it actually controls a bit better too. At least it feels like it's easier to get under the rain cloud anyway. Number 24, Cake Factory. Another nice 2 vs 2 team game that I think actually feels pretty good in this version too. I also like the nice attention to detail where the game lets you know when you can actually try and pick something else up again. Something that's a little less obvious to note in the older variation. Number 23, Slot Car Derby. Yep, you know me, I've always been a fan of this game, which is often seen as pretty divisive. Personally, I think it was a good one to bring back though, and it still feels pretty faithful to the original, which is always nice. I also like the callback to facing off against Toad in the original Minigame Island for Mario Party 1, since that's what you have to do in this game's Minigame Island. Nice attention to detail, especially if you aren't going to make Toad a playable character in this game. Number 22, Don't Look. I'm glad they brought this back over Look Away, and honestly, I think I actually prefer this over the original, since it's not reliant on motion control. Really just feels good to have full and precise control over your correct movements, or incorrect movements. Either way, I like it better than motion control. Number 21, Chip Shot Challenge. This was a hard one to rank for me because I do really love the original, and it used to be my favorite Mario Party 3 minigame. Over time though, I do think it's kinda lame that people can very easily just copy the first person shot, and potentially and likely improve over it as well. Also, the aiming line definitely feels different when compared to the original, so if you are too used to the original, discovering that perfect shot might be more of a challenge for you. Can't really say that's a problem with the minigame though, more of just someone being too used to the physics of one over the other. Number 20, Beach Volley Folly. I'm glad that they brought this game back, because I think this will always be the top sports game of the Mario Party series. It's just really fun to play, and makes a pretty fun 2 vs 2 experience as well. It really feels like a very faithful volleyball minigame, and that's why I enjoy it so much. Number 19, Spear Factor. The final Mario Party 7 minigame we have is a team-based one, and a pretty solid one at that. Definitely a game that requires great team synergy for maximum optimization of moving your giant ball, and that's really all I gotta say about it. Not my favorite team-based game in this title, but definitely one of the best. Number 18, Later Skater. See? Even though I love Slot Car Derby, I can still recognize when similar minigames are superior, and I can't deny that Later Skater just controls very well. I just wish it had other course variations as opposed to this one oval-shaped one. Could have really pushed this game further up the list if it did have that. Otherwise though, it's still really, really good. Number 17, Peak Precision. Of all the Mario Party 9 minigames that came back, I think this was the only one that made my top 10, and therefore it's the highest ranking Mario Party 9 minigame in this list. It's short, sweet, to the point, and can be really fun to optimize for fast clear times. Really all you need, I guess. Number 16, Coney Island. Number 15, Pushy Penguins. 2 more Mario Party 5 games, and we may still have another 1 or 2 out there. I had both of these games in my Mario Party 5 top 10, and I think they were even next to each other as well on the same list. They were both great back then, and they're still both great now, with not really any changes between the 2 versions. Didn't quite reclaim top 10 status, but considering what's left in this list, that was gonna be a hard battle no matter what. I still think it's great that they're here though. Number 14, Slot Trot. Mario Party 6 had some great 2 vs 2 minigames, and this was definitely one of them. Heck, I almost feel like they made this one a little better actually, making it feel like it's easier to stop when you want it to stop, and that was really my only issue with the original version. Not quite a top 10 accolade, but pretty damn close. Number 13, The Final Battle. Hey, if they were going to have a single-player minigame island mode in this game, I would have been disappointed if they didn't bring this back for the finale. It's the best Bowser boss fight in the entire series, and it still feels pretty good here. In Bowser we trust. Number 12, Mush Pit. Wait, that name doesn't sound right. We've never had a Mush Pit in this series. Oh, right. They changed the name of Toadstool Titan to this for some reason. I don't even know why either. At least in some of the other name changes in Superstars, I can understand, but this one is still a mystery to me. Anyway, this game is cool and still a classic in every way. It's also kind of nice that the animation for a player grabbing the mushroom gets a little faster too, as it keeps the game's pace moving quickly in a nice fashion. Number 11, Eats a Pizza. Eating pizza will never be unenjoyable, and this game is a true testament to that. Although it does lose out on its top 5 and even top 10 status, by no means through a quality dip, it's just that the entire top 10 is pretty stacked as it is. Overall, this is still a very fun 2 vs 2 team game, even if it does feature some button mashing in the mix. Number 10. We've made it to the final stretch of this list, and I wasn't kidding when I said we had nothing but the highest quality up here. Almost every single game here, with the very notable exception of one, has smelled not only the top 10, but even the top 5 of the other lists I've done for this channel. And at number 10, we're starting with Shell Shocked. Honestly, Shell Shock could have probably been a bit higher if it kept its original formula intact, because for some reason it removed 2 of its course variations, leaving only 1 to play on in this game, and I really don't get why. It's still a very fun minigame though, and was still good enough to keep top 10 status. Could have been a little higher though, but oh well. Number 9. I'm fully convinced at this point that you just can't have a Mario Party game without a little bit of Shy Guy Says. I've had so many intense duels in this minigame that I completely understand why it's considered a staple of the series. I do appreciate that they stuck with the Mario Party 1 setup over the Mario Party 2 version as well, although I think I still ultimately prefer this game and the Mario Party 1 engine overall. Still though, I'm very glad it's here, and just as glad that it's still awesome. Number 8. This game in particular wasn't a top 5 candidate, but its OG original certainly was. We don't have Mushroom Mix-Up in this game, but its sequel, Hexagon Heat, does still make a pretty strong showing here. There's just something about this game that works well as an intense survival game, much like Shy Guy Says as well when you think about it. There's just a little more going on here that makes it a little more action-packed, interesting, and fun to play, and for that, it gets my utmost respect. Number 7. We have our first returning number 1 for this list, and when I say first, I mean it in 2 different contexts, because here at number 7 we have Facelift. This is my favorite Mario Party 1 minigame, hands down, and although it's not my number 1 for this list, I do think it's still one of the best minigames in the entire series, and more than deserving of a ranking this far up the list. I will say, it is a bit harder to get a perfect score for this version, but if anything, that's probably a good thing, because it was kind of a bit too easy to do in the original game anyway. Plus, using the stylus for this game as opposed to the control stick movement was definitely a good call to allow for more accurate facial movements and more precise scoring, really using the 3DS's features to enhance this already excellent minigame. I kinda wish they had more faces than just Bowser's though. Basically, they probably should have used Mario Party 2's version instead of this one. Still though, a very great minigame though, and I'm glad they brought it back. Number 6. This is a game that definitely had to grow on me over time before I really got to see how great it was. But Paths of Peril is definitely a winner. Let's get that right. It's probably a little harder to manage with the thumbstick compared to the GameCube control stick, but I don't really remember having too many issues with it in this version, so that shouldn't be too much of a determining factor. This was my number 3 entry for Mario Party 4, and although it missed out on the top 5 honors again, it went down swinging hard for the fences, and I can certainly approve of its inclusion here. Number 5. Mario Party 6's returning list was a little lacking, admittedly. It had some good choices, don't get me wrong, but I always remember thinking quite highly of its minigame quality, and to feature only 1 of my top 10 was a little disappointing. At least they brought back Rocky Road though, probably one of the best team-based games in the entire series. There's just something therapeutic about teaming up with your partner and breaking rocks like this, and it can be fun to optimize your attack plan with your partner as you try to outmaneuver the opposing team. It may not be my favorite 2 versus 2 in the entire series, but they picked a good one to bring back to be my favorite 2 versus 2 game featured in this title. Number 4. I mentioned earlier in this list that there would be one minigame in this top 10 that would be a pretty notable outlier compared to the other games featured in this upper echelon. Let's just say there's one game in the top 100 that completely changed things up, going as far as to restructure its identity and play out differently compared to its original variation. And let me tell you now, back in 2000 when I first played Mario Party 2, I can honestly say that I never once saw a world where dizzy dancing would be considered one of the best games in a Mario Party title. And don't get me wrong, there was nothing bad about the original dizzy dancing. But this change-up was a really welcome surprise, and it honestly kind of made the game a really fun experience. More fun than what the original would offer anyway. Instead of just a quick sprint to be the first to grab an item in the middle of the arena is actually more of a collect-a-thon now, requiring you to collect the most musical notes while still also dealing with the dizzy control scheme of the original game, keeping its identity and premise intact while also expanding it beyond its shortcomings. Seriously, I wish more of the minigames in this title used this type of thinking, but this is seriously the only one that does, and the fact that it got so high up in this list, really only coming up short to 3 prior number 1s, is a testament to how good this minigame is. So, yeah, really good job on this one, devs. I'm legitimately impressed. Number 3. We're at the final 3, and as I said in the last entry, we're down to 3 number 1s competing against each other. These are all minigames that I considered to be the best in the games they're from, so there was definitely some difficulty in picking an ultimate winner here. However, this was the game where I just couldn't see it as my number 1 pick, at least compared to the other 2. And again, that's only because it really just comes down to personal preference at this point. So first up, we have Snowball Summit from Mario Party 3. This is a really good survival game with aspects of both offensive and defensive strategies you can utilize to survive this freezing cold war zone of snowballs. As I stated in the Mario Party 3 list, it's really cool, no pun intended, that there are a variety of different ways you can come out on top in this game. Being aggressive and quick, being defensive and calculated, bodying players with snowballs so they can't really do much, really anything in this minigame can work to your advantage, and I think that's what makes it an easy favorite for a lot of people. Definitely worked for me anyway, and that's why I got number 1 in Mario Party 3. Top 3 in this game is a really, really good honor, and I'm glad it still came back and is still as awesome as it's ever been. Number 2. Picking a number 1 between these last 2 was a really hard decision for me, especially when you consider how great and notable these 2 games are, and the fact that these minigames were really only a year apart from each other release-wise. I ultimately decided on Hotel Goomba from Mario Party 5 being my number 2 selection, and really the only thing that kept it from number 1 was probably its length. I love how many variations and permutations that exist for this game, but I do kind of wish some of them were a little bigger and more complex. I can't help it, I'm a very big puzzle guy as you know. Still though, despite that minuscule negative, I still consider this a 5 out of 5 minigame, and I'm so happy they brought it back. It really disappoints me that they didn't bring it back for Mario Party Superstars though. That was definitely a missed opportunity. Number 1. At this point, my number 1 is probably pretty obvious, but I can't help it. Booksquirm is and will always be a classic Mario Party minigame. It's a simple concept, but also one of the most intense endurance challenges you will ever have in a Mario Party game as you rush for the holes of safety and try to prolong your survival over your opposition. This has always been a really fun minigame for not only me, but also many people I know who also love this series as well. In fact, that's probably why this was even chosen as a returning minigame to begin with, because developers probably knew how widely loved and accepted this minigame is. I don't have much more to say about this game that I haven't already said in the Mario Party 4 video. But yeah, Booksquirm was always a champ, but now it's also the champion of this ranking as well, being what I consider the best minigame in Mario Party the Top 100. Well, there we go guys, 100 minigames ranked, and now we're officially done with the 3DS era of Mario Party games. At this point, we just have the Switch games left, and yeah, even though one of those games will be another list of 100 returning minigames, I'm actually really looking forward to what we have next because we got Super Mario Party, another game that I feel is a bit underappreciated, mainly due to its release timing more than anything else though. It's got a really solid list of minigames too, and I'm really curious to see how that list will stack up, especially considering it's the last unique list of this series, in terms that it's the last game with new minigames and not returning ones. Before I get onto my usual Twitch advertisement though, I do want to bring up something. Potentially another list I could end up making in the future after I finish the rest of this series. But since this game is called the Top 100, I came up with the idea of potentially making my own Top 100. Basically, my vision of what would be my roster for this game if I had any sort of pull with what got chosen to return, if that makes sense. If that's something you guys would like to see from me, please let me know in the video comments section. And again, I'd probably get to that at the end of the year, once I'm done with the rest of the games for this particular list series. One major project at a time, folks. That's all I ask. But yeah, don't forget that if you're interested in any other Mario Party content, every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern, I stream Mario Party for an event I call Thank God It's Mario Party Friday. For this season of the series, I'm playing through all the story modes, or all the games that have story modes that I can conceivably complete. So this season will be a little shorter than the first run through. Plus, we're actually making some very quick progress as well, as we're about done with all the numbered installments already, so make sure you stop in if you want to see some of the other story modes before I'm finished with this season. But yeah, that's gonna do it. So this has been SlimKirby. Thank you guys for watching, as always, and I'll see you all next time for Super Mario Party. I feel like there's something I was supposed to remember about that ranking video. Maybe it'll come to me later when I get to that point. So yeah, farewell everyone, and always remember to keep partying on. Later, folks.